screen, the PowerPoint presentation. Everybody, AI for testing and testing for AI. So usually the team, Kirsten Sandal, me, Ulla Liefler, and other people from Marleden, we are involved in Project 30, which is aspects of automated testing. And here we are working with, we were working with diversity-based testing with Francisco Gomes from Chalmers. And in this project, there was no AI at this moment here, but this project background I'm explaining. We have been talking about that, how to get the faster feedback and reduce the number of test cases to be executed. And we have achieved very good results. And the project 30 have also been focused on flaky tests. So we have developed tools and techniques and perception studies about how to reduce flaky tests, how to detect, how to predict, and how to mitigate the causes. And Edward from the Melodin working with cognitive biases in test case design, Sean from Maladin working with static code analysis of the test code specifically, that what are the test smells that lead to test flakiness. And then when we are doing this study, we find out that companies have some sort of interest in using AI for testing, or they have an AI module, for example, face recognition system or a prediction system that they want to test. So then we thought that, okay, if we do something with AI for testing and testing for AI, because our companies are using it. And now we created during the last sprint a new branch of this project, AI for testing or testing for AI. We are working if we need to bring the whole project out of it, or we still bring it as a part of Project 30. And like it's always start with the survey, but the first step I, together with Kirsten Sandal and Ula did, is conducted the survey with our software center companies to find out where they stand. Do they have any AI techniques being implemented? Do they have AI module? What techniques they are using? So it's just how they say it, measure the water before we go in. And we sent this survey last sprint. It's here. If you still want to fill it, you can go to this survey or send me an email or question. Yeah, you can still fill it because the survey has been concluded. We have evaluated the result. Now we are thinking how to proceed further. So today I'm going to discuss some of the results that I received and what we are going to do, what companies request we received. And the first thing that we are going to do this semester with one of the software center companies in using AI during software testing. So usually when it was Microsoft Forms, and it was really annoyed how to bring the review result or responses in a way that you can understand, but I'm doing my level best. So we ask people what type of intelligence system they are using. And if you can see that most of the people's 4 responses, we got total 9 responses, which is not less, but which is not more, no, not less too. A prediction system. So most of the people were working with the prediction or a decision-making AI system, they said. And we just wanted to see where should we focus our effort. Should we work with the recognition system? Should we work with the natural processing or a image quality? So we wanted to know what software center companies are doing actually. And the second is the detection and recognition function. For example, human face identification, voice recognition, object detection. So that type of intelligence system they are working. The third one is others. You can see this color here, others, which is we're going to investigate now. Okay, what AI system they are using and how can our project 30 help them? So we will definitely investigate it now with the companies who said others. So that's one of the reasons we did this survey, so we can see what's happening. And very few companies are using a natural language processing capability for understanding and translation, or green recommendation system for e-commerce advertising, red unmanned aerial or vehicle robots. So what we learned that software center companies are working with some sort of intelligence system, and I think we have reached to them and we got a very good response to 2 of the companies that we are investigating in detail. I will tell you what we are doing with them. And when we asked them what type of AI techniques have they used in developing AI components. So most of the people have used neural network, which is the purple here. If you see purple, it's neural network. Or they have used deep learning, which is brown here, it's here, or regression or classification. Yeah. So, or unsupervised learning. So we also learned that, okay, they are using some sort of AI techniques or to develop AI components. And these AI components could be object detection or voice recognition or prediction. So this was just an overview that, okay, we can do this study further. We asked them what challenges are applicable to test AI systems. So at this moment, like the topic says, is it either it is AI for testing, which means that you are using AI techniques to test a traditional system, or it is testing for AI, which means that you are using either AI technique or traditional technique to test an AI module. So we have two aspects here. Either you use AI in the testing of a traditional system, or you test an AI system itself. So we were talking about here what challenges were applicable to them to test AI system. So whatever tests they have developed, whatever components they have, what are the challenging, because the idea was to take some of the challenges here and proceed further, because all these challenges, for example, absence of test oracle, voluminous of input space, multi-dimensional input such as graph, or AI software test adequacy, when should you stop, what is the coverage criteria, all these challenges are applicable when you test AI component or module or system. So we wanted to know what are their challenges at this moment, and we find out that the purple one, which is here, lack of software engineering principles in designing AI or ML system. So all 8 of the companies, all of them mentioned that they lack the proper software engineering principle, which is true that we have traditional software engineering techniques, traditional software engineering models, traditional software engineering methods, although these traditional software system engineering methods, techniques are not applicable to high performance computing. Similarly, they are not applicable to AI, developing an AI component. And the second challenge they are facing, which is the brown, is AI software test adequacy or coverage. How can they define the coverage? Where should they stop? How much should they test? What is the criteria, adequate criteria to test an AI module? The third challenge they found, which is the green, is voluminous of input space. For example, lack of systematically selection of an adequate set and their combination from a large input space. So they're believing that their input space is too big. It may include graphs, videos, or text. So the voluminous is a problem to test an AI system. The blue one is an absence of test oracle. Well, this has been a problem in even a traditional system. Lack of defined expected values against which actual value can be compared in testing. Because the AI system might be random in nature, so the test oracle is an issue. We also see here the red one, multi-dimensional input, which says here, or a pink one. Yeah, it's which one is the pink one? Yeah. So they are facing challenge, which means that our aim in this sprint is to take maybe 1 or 2 challenges and investigate the companies and know more about it, and perhaps provide solution or tools or techniques that can address them. So these were the challenges we find out from them. We also asked them that which of the non-functional requirement or non-functional quality attribute do they consider challenging to test? So not only functional requirements, what of the quality attribute they find it's very hard to test when it comes to test an AI system. And the gray one received the higher, and which is explainability, H. The trustworthiness of an AI system relies on the user ability to understand how algorithm has arrived at a result. So they are struggling with, okay, how can we know that whatever decision the AI system has reached, maybe it's about replication or understanding the logic. So this is one of the challenges when it comes to a quality attribute they are facing. And this is something that we can start with. And this is true that there is a scarcity of the literature that address quality attributes in the AI systems. The second one is a 6, which is blue, correctness. Reflects if the recognition result is true when faced with Boolean recognition system. So do you trust the system? Is it correctly giving you the answer? So that's, I can see that the major challenges that either 7 companies or 6 companies have mentioned it. And then we have this purple one that 4 companies mentioned is a privacy, central AI concern that they feel. And the other challenges were received have the similar numbers. For example, accuracy, stability, timeliness, robustness, security. But we find out during this survey that in addition to working with test oracle, in the previous question I am now, or lack of software engineering principles or voluminous, we can still work with correctness, explainability, or other quality attributes for the companies. So we learned doing this, we learned a lot, okay, where they stand, what companies has a problem. Now it's a matter to conduct one-to-one interviews before we can understand their things in detail. Now, what type of testing are used at this moment to test AI system? Of course, there are types of testing: rule-based, classification-based, model-based, AI-based. I understand that these terms might be overlapping or confusing if you are not working with the AI. But if you look into the orange one, then most of the people are using classification-based AI testing, in which classification models of input, context, output, events are generated for the educate testing. Or we also asked, the second one is a blue one, which I rule-based testing, in which predefined expert-based rules are established. I think most of the literature have used some of these techniques, but we can see that software-centric companies are doing something in this. Perhaps we can provide optimization, or we can see if the testing methods are in line with the testing criteria they have. Now, what testing techniques? They are testing different known techniques in the software center in the literature. For example, metamorphic testing or data morphing testing or scenario analysis or cause and effect testing. So they are the different techniques that have proved to be valid when it comes to test AI system. And looking at the software center result, we see the brown one, which is scenario analysis, that most of the companies are using scenario analysis into them. And very few companies are using the metamorphic testing, which is the blue here, or an orange. Metamorphic testing and datamorphic testing, when I was reading the literature, have received a significant attention. I don't know why software center companies haven't looked into it. Well, this result was surprising for me a little bit. So they are doing something, okay, at least. Now, that was the part when we were talking about with the software center about AI component. Now, the survey focused on the other part, which is how to test traditional system using an AI techniques. And then we asked them what techniques, what AI techniques are used at this moment to test traditional system. So most of them, 75% said classification, learning and prediction, defect coverage. They are using these techniques of AI or others, which we don't know and we plan to investigate. But no one is using at this moment, I won't say no one, but the companies that we investigated are not using fuzzing or probabilistic techniques or a search-based software testing, for example, genetic or greedy algorithm. Now coming to the end, when we did this survey, we asked them what do they want or what do they expect from us to investigate in the coming sprint. So all the 9 companies suggested that we should work with AI techniques for a fault detection and prediction using AI-based technique. So all the companies are interested for a fault detection and prediction using AI techniques. And this is what we are, when we work with two of the software-centric companies, they explained us their way of working, which I will do it in a few seconds, what they want for us to do. But this is something that we plan to investigate in the coming sprint. The second most priority from the companies were test generation, selection, prioritization, or reduction using AI technique. So if you remember when I was talking about in the first slide about diversity-based testing, so that was a very successful endeavor which we had about reducing or minimizing or prioritizing test cases based on similarity between them. How similar are they? And I'm surprised to see that still people want to work with generation, selection, prioritization, but now using AI techniques. And the third one is test result validation using AI technique. And the fourth option was how to test functionality of NI system. How can you do that? And then the other were with a very less priority. So we can see our plan is to use A and B in this. So if you feel that your company is in need with these priorities and you want to work with it, please feel free to send us the email so we can interview with it. So after this survey, we met two of the companies, and I would like to share what they explained to us, their current problem in the AI for testing or testing for AI, and they gave us the data, and we are working with the prototype. So let me explain you how that works, their problem. So, okay, I feel that if I swap the display, yes, and if I bring the pen, this is the new one, screen, swap display, and show CC pen. So what the problem they have, that they have different components, C1, I don't have a pen with me, I'm sorry, and they have a second component, C2. So they are testing during the integration testing or system level testing, they are testing all the components in the system. And whatever they are testing is being recorded in the log file. So whatever the data being exchanged in these two components, when the data was communicated, what type of data was communicated, all these things. In this picture, as a simplicity, there are only two components, but imagine that they might have 7 or 8 different components which they are sharing data with each other, and different type of data, different type of protocol, and then there is a log file. So what they want to see that in one of the use case they have that C1 send a request to C2 and C2 did not send the data back. Then C1 again sent the request to C2, and then C2 send the data to C1. So they want to know about these anomalies, communication anomalies in the log file during the testing. It is one of the use cases. They have maybe 10 or 12 different use cases, but for the audience, I'm explaining that why this happened for over a 1 month or 2 month period. This pattern where C1 tries to communicate or want to get some data and didn't receive, and C1 sent another request, and then C2 sent the data. So this another request or a first request was an anomaly they are looking for from the log files or from the testing data. So they want to employ some sort of AI mechanism that looks for these types of anomalies, communication anomalies in the system. Now, this could be a traditional system or an AI system. We haven't talked about it. We just met 1 or 2 times, and now what they have done, they have shared the log file with us. They have explained their architecture, what type of data is being. So this project has already received some sort of data and attention where we are using an AI technique to find the communication anomalies or other use cases that I don't want to go in detail. So this is the project is running in this sprint. We hope we'll have some result at the end of this semester. We can see what we can do. But if you want to be part of this software project, please send me or Christian an email. Or if you are using some sort of AI technique that you want to optimize, or if you be on board, please let us know. That's all from my side. Thank you. Thank you very much.